Today I'm going to show you how I make my cheese boards. I start out with a piece of 1x8 maple. I mark it at 16.5 inches. Today I'm making 2 of them in case I make a mistake. Once I cut these up, I'll head over to the table saw where I'll rip them down a little narrower than the 7 1/4 that the 1x8 comes. These pieces will be used on the outside edge of the board and will be glued up against the black walnut that I also ripped. Once these pieces are all ripped, I take them over to the joiner, so I'll make sure that the edges are all cleaned up nice and straight for glue up. I only remove a little bit just to make a nice straight edge. Most of the time, off of the table saw is really close. But if not, run over the joiner, it will show in the glue up. This is the black walnut. I ripped this at about 5/16 of an inch. I don't send it through the jointer. It's just too small and would not be safe. I try to rip it very slow and be very cautious. I haven't had any problems in the glue up. Now my shop supervisor is here to see how I'm doing. What I am doing is going through each piece, trying to pick the best side and make sure that that side is up. Once you start gluing up, it's easy to get confused and put something in the wrong spot. So I make sure the outside boards have an X so that I don't get them mixed up. Once everything is set, I give the supervisor a little oven. I've sped this up, but this is where everything gets glued up. I use more glue than I need, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. I use Titebond 3 for this, mostly because it is food safe and it's waterproof. And it's the best one Titebond has as far as strength. I give the boards a couple hours to dry and then I remove all of the clamps. I should have noted the top clamp I'm removing is simply a handle more or less to move these boards around. A third clamp isn't really necessary in the center, but it does make it convenient for moving stuff around. Sometimes I make 4 or 5 of these at a time. Once they're out of the clamps, it's over to the surface planer. I run it through the planer 3 or 4 different times, flipping it on the last pass. Any glue that was on there I scraped off with a chisel. Then I take it back over to the bench and I align the template by eye. Now it's off to the bench bandsaw. I cut this out, leaving the line and a little bit extra. It's easier to sand to the line than make a mistake and cut into the line. Once it's cut out, I then take it to the oscillating sander. This is one of my favorite tools in the shop. I very carefully sand up to the line that I previously marked. Once that's done, I take the router and put a very small radius around the perimeter. I believe it's a 1/8 of an inch. Can't forget the little hole. Flip it over, do it again, and then start sanding. I sand with an 80 grit, and then I jump to a 120, and then a 180. After that's done, I dust it all off, and I applied a very wide masking tape. This is used to prevent burns in the laser. As the laser does the engraving, some smoke, the residual will come up over the top, and it can make an awful mess on top of the wood, which will result in more sanding. So the tape is applied so that any smoke will be put on top of the tape, which makes it much easier to get rid of. Then I create a file on the computer, upload it to the printer, and then the printer starts doing its magic. The laser can engrave different depths of the wood. I typically do it at about 60% when it's going to be on a product where there's going to be food involved. This one says family, friends, and a little piece of heaven. Great Sacandaga Lake. It takes about a half an hour for the laser to engrave this particular one. Then I remove it, take it back out to the shop. Once it's out in the shop, I start peeling tape. This is probably the worst part of the entire process. It takes a while because the tape comes off in several pieces. But once it's off, I apply a food-grade mineral oil. Rub it into the maple, and as you can see, the black walnut really pops. I apply 3 to 4 coats with a top wax coat before I give it to the customer. And that's the finished product. Thanks for watching.